All right. So we've covered the law, the rights, the duties, and who's responsible for what. Now let's look at the technical standards that guide how auditors actually do their work. Technical standards that guide how auditors actually do their work. Okay, so I welcome us to Unit 4, and this is where we get into the technical framework. You see, the standards that guide audit practice is what we're going to be looking at, very importantly. All right, so think of ISAs, or the International Standards on Auditing, like the International Highway Code. I start with that analogy. So just as drivers need consistent rules to drive safely across countries, you see, auditors need consistent standards to audit reliably across the world. So let's start by understanding why we have auditing standards in the first place. So the role of auditing standards ensure that audits are carried out consistently and according to established practice. And the benefit is that it gives users confidence that the audit is reliable and they can compare financial statements of different companies knowing the same standards were applied. That's the benefit. And international standards on auditing apply practically or primarily to external audits, but are often seen as good practice for internal auditors as well. Now, who produces these standards? Who produces these auditing standards? So let's look at the organizations that produce them. Let's look at the organizations that produce them. So we have the International Federation of Accountants. You see, there are two key organizations you need to know. The first one is the International Federation of Accountants. Now, think of IFAC as the federal government of Nigeria. It's the global organization for the accountancy profession. You see, it serves the public interest by strengthening the profession. It has about 180 members in 130 countries, representing about 3 million accountants. So it promotes values of integrity, transparency, and expertise. The International Federation of Accountants has 4 boards, and you need to know them. Number 1 is the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. They are the ones that produce the international standards on auditing. Another board member or another board under the IFAC is the IAASB, International Accounting Education Standard Board. We also have the IAASB, the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants. And we have the IPSASB, the International Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. But our focus is on the International Audit and Assurance Standard Board. This is the one we care about most, because it's an independent standard-setting body within the International Federation of Accountants, International Federation of Accountants, actually. Now, this IAASB is a board, a special board under the IFAC. And the key point here is that you must understand that ICAN is also a member of IFAC, and that means Nigeria adopts international standards. Now, when a new ISA is produced, you see, the process for producing a new ISA has 3 steps. Number 1 is that a subject is selected for study. Number 2, an exposure draft is produced and distributed for comment. And number 3, the comments are considered, the draft is modified and approved, and the new ISA is published. So, for IFAC boards, this mnemonic, talking about AEEP, will help us drive the point to remember this International Standards Board. Auditing talks about the board behind it, the IAASB. Education, the IAESB. Ethics Board, IASBA. And Public Sector Board, IPSASB Board. So, it's important to remember this as some of the areas the examiner likes to bring in this skills level. Now, let's look at the hierarchy of the IAASB, the Audit and Assurance Standard Board's standard. Let's look at the hierarchy in this next conversation. Now, this is where it gets a bit technical, and I'm going to try to make it simple. So, let's start with the analogy. So, think of ISAs like a toolbox with different tools for different jobs. You won't use a hammer to screw in a small screw. So, the same analogy applies here. So the 5 types of standards we have are: number 1, the international standards on auditing. So these are for audits of historical financial information, and this is our main tool. Number 2 is the international standards on review engagement. They are for review of historical information, and this is for limited assurance. Number 3, the international standards on assurance engagements, which is the international standards on for engagements other than audits or review. And we have the international standards on related services. These are for compilation engagements and agreed upon procedures. Number 5, we have international standards on quality management, which are the international standards applied to all the above services we mentioned in the first 4 standards. So the International Audit and Assurance Standard Board's pronouncements do not override local laws. And if local laws conflict, you see, the accountant should not state compliance with the International Audit and Assurance Standards unless they are fully compliant. So we have the structure of the standards. The structure of ISAs is: we have the introduction, we have the objectives, we have the definitions, we have the requirements. And the requirements mean we must use shall and not should. We must use shall and not would. And application material are for guidance only in the structure of the standard. So we have other standards like the international standards on review engagements. We have the international standards on assurance engagements and the international standards on related services. They have basic principles and essential procedures that uses should and related guidance. But for ISAs, they use shall. Those are statements that are affirmative. So for professional judgment, the nature of international standards require professional judgment in applying them. And in exceptional circumstances, the auditor may depart from a procedure, but must judge or must justify the departure, which is very important. So to remember this concept with our mnemonic system, the standards with ARARQ will help you remember. So A stands for audit, and the standards acronym or the standards that guide them are ISAs. Then for reviews, ISREs, International Standards on Review Engagements, guides reviews. While assurance and other services, the International Standards on Audit and Assurance, the International Standards on Assurance Engagements guides assurance, while related services are provided by the International Standards on Related Services, while quality management are by the International Standards on Quality Management, very importantly. All right, so now let's look at an important ISA, which is the International Standards on Auditing 200. And that ISA is the overall objectives of the independent auditor. So ISA 200 is actually a foundational standard. It's like the constitution of auditing. You see, every other ISA builds on this fundamental ISA. So using this pilot checklist analogy, so think of ISA 200 like a pilot's pre-flight checklist. So the pilot must follow all rules. He must be skeptical about instrument readings, use judgment, and gather enough information to fly safely. So if that pilot cannot get enough information, he aborts the flight. They abort the flight. So the true primary objective of ISA 200 is: number 1, to obtain reasonable assurance that financial statements are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. And number 2 is to report on the financial statements and communicate as required by ISAs. So if reasonable assurance cannot be obtained, and if the auditor cannot obtain reasonable assurance, then they must disclaim an opinion or resign from the engagement. So the requirement of ISA 200 speaks to the fact that the auditor must, number 1, comply with all relevant ISAs. He must comply with relevant ethical requirements. He must plan and perform his audit with professional skepticism. He must exercise professional judgment, and he must obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So for ISA 200, This acronym SJESE will help us remember under exam condition. S means skepticism. He must be professional. J means judgment. He must provide judgment or his professional judgment on matters of the audits. E means ethics, where he must comply with the ethics of the profession. And S means standard, where he must comply with ISAs. And E means evidence, where he must obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence, which is very, very important. Now let's look at the scope of an audit as we begin to round off this unit. The scope of an audit. So what exactly does an audit cover? So what is the scope? So think of an audit like a home inspection. Let's use this home inspector analogy. You see, the inspector gathers evidence, he assesses risks, considers the building's construction, but doesn't give an opinion on the quality of workmanship. Only he gives his opinion on the building's condition. So the scope talk here, an audit involves performing procedures to obtain evidence about amounts and disclosures. And also procedures depend on risk assessment. And the auditor considers internal controls to design procedures, but not to express an opinion on their effectiveness. So the audit also includes evaluating accounting policies and accounting estimates and also overall presentation. So the key point here is that the auditor looks at internal controls to understand the company, not to give an opinion on whether those controls work or not. And that's the key point here. So now let's look at how an audit is conducted in two phases. So an audit is conducted in two phases. The first one is interim and in final phases. The interim phase and the final phase. So think of these audits like building a house. You see, the interim audit is like checking the house foundation during construction. Fewer inspectors early in the process. Now, the final audit is like the final inspection when the house is completed. The full team checking everything. That's what final audit means. But the interim is like checking the house, the foundation during construction. You have fewer inspectors who come in early during the process. But the final one is like a final inspection where the house is complete and the full team checks everything. So the internal audit is before year end, is conducted before year end, where we have discussions with management to understand the entity and environment, where we have recording internal controls, we have preliminary control testing or substantive procedures, and usually it's performed by fewer but more senior staff. Then we have the final audit, which is after year end, and it includes full year balances. It's much longer and it includes the whole team of professionals. So with this mnemonic, you remember that the phases in an audit is an interim, which is before year end, and it involves fewer senior staff, while the final is after year end and it involves the full team, which is very, very important. So that brings us to the end of Unit 4. And before we go into the next unit, which is Unit 5, we'll look at Unit 5, the Nigerian standards on auditing. But before that, I would like to stop here and ask questions if we have any questions. If we don't, it's nice.